hope you're all well on this Friday. And today is Super Friday. We have got 3 shows today for you. So we're going to start off with the live album ranking, and today we are looking at the English rock band Supertramp, formed in 1969 by Roger Hodgson and Rick Davies, where they blended that progressive rock and pop styles. But the thing that really stood them out was that Wurlitzer electric piano was a unique sound, and when you hear that, you know you're listening to Supertramp. Lots of people went through the band, but the classic lineup was, of course, Roger, Rick, Doogie Thompson, Bob Seinberg, and John Halliwell. 6 live albums in their career. Well, 5 and 1 other, as I put it. So let's get cracking. So coming in at number 6 is it's called 1997 Live, released in 2006. Now this is basically a condensed version of another album, which we will talk about a bit later. I sometimes don't understand why they do it. I think this is more of a record company trying to make some dosh. The tracks are on it are all right. We'll talk about them later. It's just like a highlights album, live album. I can't see the point of those. So I think this was a pointless album. I can't think of anybody that's actually bought it. But because it's the songs on here, they are some great songs. I haven't played it. I don't want to play it, but I'm going to give it 5 out of 10 because it is Supertramp. There you go. So let's start the real ranking now. So coming in at number 5 is an album recorded in 1988. It's called Live 88. Now, this was originally recorded on a soundboard for Rick Davies' use only. And it features a 4-piece lineup of the group. Augmented by additional players included Mark Hart, who became a permanent member and also a future member of Crowded House, of course. So he played guitars and singing songs originally sung by Roger Hodgson. Okay, it was not meant for commercial use, but Rick Davies was so pleased with it and the vibe of the performance, he authorised A&M to put it out. So what turned out to be a little personal project ended up into a full-blown live album. So on here, it features Rick Davies on the keyboards and vocals, Mark Hart on keyboards and vocals, John Halliwell on saxophone and keyboards, Doogie Thompson on the bass, Bob Seinberg as ever on the drums. We had some guest people on the stage with them. Marty Walsh did some guitars, Brad Cole keyboards and saxophones, and Steve Reed percussion. So we've got You've Started Laughing, It's All Right, Not the Moment, Bloody Well Right, Breakfast in America, From Now On, Free as a Bird, Oh Darling, Just Another Nervous Wreck, The Logical Song. Then we have a cover of I'm Your Hoochie Coochie Man, Don't You Lie to Me, I Get Evil, and Crimes of Passion. Considering when this was how it was recorded, it's pretty good. They've done a really good job in it, and I think Mark Hart doesn't do a bad job of singing the Roger songs. It's a really good little album. You can tell it's not the best recording, but they've done a fine job to clean this one up. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 4, we have an album released in 1999, and it is called It Was the Best of Times. Now, this is the album that highlights is actually from. Recorded at the Royal Albert Hall in September of 1997, and it was all part during the It's About Time tour, set up as support of some of the songs from the Some Things Never Change album. So on here we've got Rick Davies, Mark Hart, Carl Verheyen, I think that's how you pronounce it, Cliff Hugo, John Helliwell on the sax, Lee Thornburg on the trumpet, Bob Seinberg on the drums, and Jess Seinberg on the percussion. It's a Hard World, really good song, like that one. You Win, I Lose, pretty good. Listen to Me Please, Ain't Nobody for Me, Sooner or Later. Great little duo there between Rick and Mark. Free as a Bird, great track, great vocal from Rick. Cannonball, another good vocal from Rick. From Now On's good. Breakfast in America, really strong track. Give Me a Chance, brilliant. Rudy, as ever, brilliant. Downstream, Another Man's Woman, Take the Long Way Home, Bloody Well Right, and the Logical Song, Goodbye. A great version of School on here. And The Light, Don't Let You Lie to Me, I Get Evil, which is a Tampa Red cover, of course, I forgot to mention that before. And Crime of the Century. Again, really good album. You know, Mark Hart does a fine job on the Roger songs. They're just a really good live band, full stop. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay then, coming in at number 3. Now this is a series of live albums that was recorded in support of Supertramp's 7010 tour, and it is actually called the 7010 tour. This one commemorated the 40th anniversary of the band. Each concert from the tour was recorded and released on CD or as an MP3 download. I've got an MP3 download of this. I've only got one. I didn't do them all because I couldn't see the point. This one I think is either from Freiburg or Verona because Asylum's on this. And it is pretty good. So we've got Rick Davies on keyboards and harmonica. Jess Seinberg has been promoted from percussion onto guitars and keyboards. John Helliwell plays the saxophone. Bob Seinberg is ever on the drums. We've got Cliff Hugo on the bass. Carl Verheyen on guitar. Lee Thornburg on the trumpets. Gabe Dixon on keyboards, percussion, lead and backing vocals. And Cassie Miller on the backing vocals. So this is a really good show. It goes all through their discography. We've got some really good tracks on here, and it opens up with You Started Laughing, which was a B-side to Lady, really good version. Gone Hollywood from Breakfast in America, great track from that album. Put Your Old Brown Shoes On, a fantastic track from Famous Last Words. Ain't Nobody But Me from Crisis, What Crisis? Breakfast in America, this was sung by Jess Seinberg, does a really good job of it as well. Then we got Cannonball, which is a great track from Rick. From Brother, Where Are You Bound? Poor Boy from Crisis, What Crisis? Great track. Then From Now On, from the Even in the Quietest Moments, this is a nice lead vocal between Rick Davies and Jess Seinberg. Give a Little Bit, a really nice version of this. Jess Seinberg does a fine job on the vocals from the album Even in the Quietest Moments. Downstream, really good version. Rudy, great vocal here between Rick Davies and Gabe Dixon. Really do a great version from the fantastic Crime of the Century, of course. It's Raining Again. Love this track. It's a track from Famous Last Words, and Gabe Dixon does a fine job on the vocals. Take the Long Way Home, lead vocals on this one by Gabe again. Fine job. Bloody Well Right from Crime of the Century, fantastic version. The Logical Song, great version. Jess Seinberg does a great version of that. Goodbye Stranger, Breakfast in America, classic track. Don't Lie to Me, Tampa Red cover, this is good. Then School, a great version of that. Dreamer, brilliant, from Crime of the Century. Gabe and Rick do the vocals, and then a stonking version of Crime of the Century. A really good concert. You know, they did go through the catalogue and they put a fantastic show together. I love listening to this. Everyone that sings the Roger stuff does a fine job. And I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 2. This was released in 2001, but it was actually recorded on the 9th of March 1975 at the Hammersmith Odeon in London during the Crime of the Century tour. Of course, they played the whole of Crime of the Century and some tracks from the then still to be recorded Crisis, What Crisis, which is fantastic. So this was a bootleg, but they eventually put it out because it is cracking. So we've got the classic lineup of Supertramp on here: Rick Davies, Roger Hodgson, John Helliwell, Dougie Thompson or Doogie Thompson, and Bob Seinberg. Opens up with the brilliant School. Great version of that. Bloody Well Right. I love that track. Then we get Hide in Your Shell. Roger sounds brilliant on that. Asylum. The two of them singing together was fantastic to hear. Sister Moonshine. Another duo between Roger and Rick. Brilliant. Just a Normal Day. Again, they sound great together. Another Man's Woman. Lady. Dreamer. Rudy. If Everyone Was Listening. Crime of the Century. Belter of a live album. When they played the whole of one of my favourite album. What more can you say? So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. So my number 1, which is not a surprise really, if you're a Supertramp fan. If I hadn't put this at number 1, I think there'd have been an absolute uproar, but of course it's not going to be anywhere else but number 1. Released in 1980, it is Paris. Recorded on the Breakfast in America tour at the Pavilion de Paris. And on here, of course, it's the classic lineup of Rick Davies, Roger Hodgson, John Helliwell, Doogie Thompson and Bob Seinberg. Opens up with School. Great version. Ain't Nobody But Me. Brilliant. The Logical Song, definitive version. Fantastic. Bloody Well Right, fantastic version, definitive version. Breakfast in America, so much more atmosphere on that than the sit and the studio. Brilliant. You Started Laughing. Hide in Your Shell, From Now On. Dreamer, the definitive version of Rudy. Soapbox Opera, great track. Asylum, brilliant version. Take the Long Way Home, brilliant. Fool's Overture, absolutely amazing. Best version I've got of that. Two of Us, it's a little short thing, but still. And again, the definitive version of Crime of the Century. This is one of those classic live albums that's got everything on here from the heyday of Supertramp. Roger's singing is just some of the best he ever did with the band on this tour. It remains one of my favourite live albums from the 80s, and it's one that I do tend to go for. If I want to listen to live Supertramp, it's 9 times out of 10 it's this one. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.5. So there we go, little bit of Supertramp. Thanks last night for you guys that have come up with some ideas for live album rankings from the live stream. Got a nice bunch now to go through. Looking forward to going through these live albums of the bands you suggested. Okay, we've got 2 shows to do still today. We've got a new album review of The Who, not the Roger Daltrey, but the Mongolian rock band, Rumble on the Thunder, and a special one today, as it's a band that I've been sort of supporting for over a year now and keep giving promotions. It's a band called Echo 7 from Canada. They sent me their X-Ray and Use EP. They're out on tour promoting it, and it's called X-Ray in Use, and we'll be discussing that later. So I'll see you later. I'm going to have a cup of coffee before we start recording again. So bye for now.